12 Angry Men by Reginald Rose, starring Hector Elizondo, Richard Kind, Jeffrey Donovan, Dan Castellaneta, and Robert Foxworth. Directed by John de Lancie. Recorded before an audience by LA Theatre Works. Over the course of a steamy, tense afternoon, 12 jurors deliberate the fate of a 19-year-old alleged to have murdered his own father. A seemingly open and shut case turns complicated, igniting passions and hidden prejudices. And now, 12 Angry Men by Reginald Rose.
And that concludes the court's explanation of the legal aspects of this case. And now, gentlemen of the jury, I come to my final instruction to you. Murder, in the first degree, premeditated homicide, is the most serious charge tried in our criminal courts. You've listened to the testimony, and you've had the law read to you and interpreted as it applies to this case. It now becomes your duty to try to separate the facts from the fancy. One man is dead. The life of another is at stake. I urge you to deliberate honestly and thoughtfully. If there's a reasonable doubt, then you must bring me a verdict of not guilty. If, however, there is no reasonable doubt, then you must, in good conscience, find the accused guilty. However you decide, your verdict must be unanimous. In the event that you find the accused guilty, the bench will not entertain a recommendation for mercy. The death sentence is mandatory in this case. I don't envy you your job. You are faced with a grave responsibility. Thank you, gentlemen. And now I'm going to ask that the jury retire to deliberate.
Believe it.
Hey, you want some gum?
No, thanks.
You know something? I phoned up for the weather. It's the hottest day of the year. You'd think they'd at least air condition the place. I almost dropped dead in the court.
Hey, they locked the door. I never knew they locked the door.
Sure they locked the door. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. It just never occurred to me.
Hey, what are you doing?
Well, I figured we might want to vote by ballot.
Oh, great. Maybe we can get him elected senator or something.
How'd you like it?
I don't know. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I was falling asleep.
I mean, I never been on a jury before.
Really? Yeah, I sat on juries, and it always amazes me the way these lawyers can talk and talk and talk, even when the case is as obvious as this one. I mean, you ever hear so much talk about nothing?
Well, I guess they're entitled.
Yeah, sure they are. Everybody deserves a fair trial. That's a system. Listen, I'm the last one to say anything against it. But I'm telling you, sometimes I think we'd be better off if we took these tough kids and slapped them down before they got started, you know? Save us a lot of time and
Hey,
trouble.
how about getting started here, huh?
Yeah, let's get this over with. We probably all got things to do.
Oh, well, I was figuring we'd take a 5-minute break. I mean, one man's in the bathroom.
Are we going to sit in order?
I don't know.
Not a bad view. Hey, what'd you think of the case? It had a lot of interest for me. No dead spots, you know what I mean? I'll tell you, we were lucky to get a murder case. I figured for a burglary or an assault or something, those can be the dullest. Hey, say, isn't that the Woolworth building over there?
That's right.
Funny, I've lived here all my life. I've never been in it.
Goddamn waste of time.
Oh, sure. Can you imagine sitting there for 3 days for this?
Yeah, what about that business with the knife? I mean, asking grown-up people to believe that kind of bullshit.
Look, you gotta expect that. You know what you get.
Yeah, I suppose so. What's the matter? Got a cold?
Oh, and how these hot weather colds, they kill you. I can hardly touch my nose, you know what I mean?
Well, your horn's all right. Now try your lights. Ah, that's beautiful. The fan doesn't work. Hey, somebody take a letter to the mayor. Dear Stingy.
Well, let me take a look at it.
Hey, you got a paper. I didn't get a chance to look at the newspapers today. Anything new going on?
I was just wondering how the market closed.
I wouldn't know. Say, are you on the exchange or something?
I'm a broker.
Really? I run a messenger service, the Beck and Call Company. The name's my wife's idea. I employ 37 people. Started with nothing.
Oh, sorry, the fan doesn't work.
Hey, Mr. Foreman, let's go. What do you say?
All right, gentlemen, let's take seats.
Oh, this better be fast. I got tickets to a ball game tonight. Yankees, Cleveland. They got this new kid pitching, Majalewski, or whatever his name is. He's a bull, this kid. Whoosh, yeah, real jug handle.
What's a jug handle?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
You're a real ball fan, huh? Listen, where do you want us to sit?
Well, I was thinking we ought to sit in order by jury numbers 2, 3, 4, so on, if that's okay with you gentlemen.
What's the difference?
I think it's reasonable to sit according to number.
Yeah. Let it be.
Okay, everybody, let's all take our seats now.
What
was your impression of the prosecuting attorney?
I beg your pardon?
Well, I thought he was really sharp. I mean, the way he hammered home with his points, one by one in logical sequence. It takes a good brain to do that. I was very impressed.
Yes, I think he did an expert job.
I mean, he had a lot of drive, too. Real drive.
Okay, let's get this show on the road.
How about the, sitting down? The gentleman by the window, how about sitting down?
Oh, sorry.
It's pretty tough to figure, isn't it? Kid kills his father and bing, just like that.
Well, if you analyze the figures...
Well, it's the element. I'm telling you, they let the kids run wild up there. Well, maybe it serves them right, know what I mean?
Is everybody here?
The old man's still in the restroom.
Hey, you a Yankee fan?
No, Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh? Ah, gee, that's like being hit on the head with a crowbar once a day. Listen, who they got? I'm asking you, who they got besides great groundskeepers?
Hey, in the toilet there. We'd like to get started.
I'm sorry.
Pittsburgh.
All right. Now, you gentlemen can handle this any way you want to. I mean, I'm not going to have any rules, so if we want to discuss first and then vote, that's one way. Or we can vote right now and see how we stand, and that's really all I have to say.
I think it's customary to take a preliminary vote.
Yeah, let's vote. Who knows? Maybe we can all go home.
It's up to you. Just let's remember. Now, we've got a first-degree murder charge here. If we vote guilty, we send the accused to the electric chair. That's mandatory.
I think we all know
Come
that.
on, let's vote.
Come on, yeah, let's see. Let's see who's
Okay,
where.
now, anybody who doesn't want to vote. All right. Now, this has to be a 12-0 vote either way. That's the law. Okay, are we ready? All those voting guilty, raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's 11. Not guilty? One. Right. Okay. 11-1. Guilty. Now we know where we are.
Oh, boy, there's always one.
So what do we do now?
Well, I guess we talk.
Boy, oh, boy.
Well, look, do you really think he's innocent?
I don't know.
I mean, let's be reasonable. You sat in court, heard the same things we did. The man's a dangerous killer.
The man.
You could see it.
He's a 16-year-old boy.
Well, that's old enough. He knifed his own father 4 inches into the chest.
It's pretty obvious. I mean, I was convinced from the first day.
Well, who wasn't? I really think this is one of those open and shut things. They proved it a dozen different ways. Would you like me to list them for you?
No.
Then what do you want?
Nothing. I just want to talk.
Well, what's there to talk about? 11 men here agree. Nobody had to think twice about it except you.
Okay, I want to ask you something. Do you believe his story?
I don't know whether I believe it or not. Maybe I don't.
So what'd you vote not guilty for?
Well, there were 11 votes for guilty. It's not easy for me to raise my hand and send a boy off to die without talking about it first.
Who says it's easy for me?
No one.
What, just because I voted fast? I think the guy's guilty. You couldn't change my mind. You talked for 100 years.
I'm not trying to change your mind. It's just that we're talking about somebody's life here. I mean, we can't just decide in 5 minutes, supposing we're wrong.
Supposing we're wrong? Well, supposing the whole building fell on my head. You can suppose anything.
That's right.
What's the difference how long it takes? We honestly think he's guilty. So suppose we finish in 5 minutes. So what?
Look, let's take an hour. The ball game doesn't start till 8 o'clock.
Okay, Slugger. Be my guest.
Well, who's got something to say? How about you?
Not me.
I'm willing to put in an hour.
Great. All right, I heard a pretty good story the other night. This woman comes running into the doctor's office, stripped to the waist.
That's not what we're sitting here for.
All right, then you tell me, what are we doing here?
Maybe for no reason. I don't know. Look, this boy's been kicked around all his life, living in a slum. His mother dead since he was 9. He spent 1.5 years in an orphanage while his father served a jail term for forgery. Now, that's not a very good head start. He's had pretty terrible 16 years. I think maybe we owe him a few words, that's all.
I don't mind telling you this, mister. We don't owe him a thing. He got a fair trial, didn't he? What do you think the trial cost? He's lucky he got it, know what I mean? Look, we're all grown-ups here. We heard the facts, didn't we? Now, you're not going to tell us that we're supposed to believe that kid knowing what he is. Listen, I've lived among them all my life. You can't believe a word they say. I mean, they're born liars.
It suddenly occurs to me that you must be an ignorant man.
What do you mean? What's he talking about?
You think you have a monopoly on the truth?
What are you making a federal case out of it for? How do you like this guy?
I think certain things should be pointed out.
All right. It's not Sunday here. We don't need a sermon. Come on.
Monopoly, for Christ's sake.
Gee.
If we're going to discuss this case, let's stick to the facts.
Right. We got a job to do, so let's do it. Now, maybe if the gentleman who's disagreeing down there could tell us why, tell us what he thinks, we could show him where he's probably mixed up.
What are you drawing? What are you drawing?
Oh, it's one of the products I work on at the ad agency. Rice Pops. The breakfast with the built-in bounce. I wrote that line.
It's very catchy.
If you don't mind.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have this habit of doodling. It keeps me thinking clearly.
Well, we're trying to get someplace here. You know, we can sit here forever.
Well, look, maybe this is an idea. I'm just thinking out loud, but it seems to me it's up to us to convince this gentleman that we're right and he's wrong. Maybe if we each took a minute or two. I mean, it's just a quick thought.
Oh, no, that's a good one. All right, supposing we go once around the table in order of jury numbers.
Anything. Let's start it off.
Okay, well, that means you're first.
Well, it's hard to put into words. I just think he's guilty. I thought it was obvious from the word go. I mean, nobody proved otherwise.
Nobody has to prove otherwise. The burden of proof is on the prosecution. The defendant doesn't have to open his mouth. That's in the Constitution.
Sure, I know that. What I meant, the man is guilty. I mean, well, somebody saw him do it.
Okay. Now, here's what I think. And I got no personal feelings about this. I'm talking facts. Number one. Let's take the old man who lived on the second floor, right underneath the room where the murder took place. At 10 minutes after 12 on the night of the killing, he heard loud noises in the apartment upstairs. He said it sounded like a fight. Then he heard the kid shout out, "I'm gonna kill you." A second later, he heard a body fall, and he ran to the door of his apartment, looked out, saw the kid running down the stairs and out of the house. Then he called the police. They found the father with a knife in his chest.
And the coroner fixed the time of death at around midnight.
Right. I mean, there are facts for you. You can't refute facts. This boy is guilty. Look, I'm as sentimental as the next guy. I know the kid's only 16, but he's still got to pay for what he did.
I'm with you, my friend.
It was obvious to me, anyway, that the boy's entire story was flimsy. He claimed he was at the movies during the time of the killing, and yet 1 hour later, he couldn't remember what films he saw or who played in them.
That's right. Did you hear that? You're absolutely right.
No one saw him going into or out of the theater.
All right, and listen, what about the woman across the street? Now, if her testimony doesn't prove it, nothing does.
That's right. She was the one who actually saw the killing.
All right, let's go in order here.
Just a minute. Now, here's a woman. Here's a woman who's lying in bed, can't sleep, she's dying with the heat. Know what I mean? Anyway, she looks out the window, right across the street, she sees the kid stick the knife into his father. Right. The time is 12:10 on the nose. Look, she's known the kid all his life. His window was right opposite hers across the L tracks, and she swore she saw him
through the windows of a passing elevated train.
Right. This L train had no passengers on it. It was just being moved downtown. The lights were out, remember? And they proved in court that at night you can look through the windows of an L train when the lights are out and see what's happening on the other side. They proved it.
I'd like to ask you something.
Sure, go ahead.
You don't believe the boy. How come you believe the woman? She's one of them, too, isn't she?
You're a pretty smart fella, aren't you?
Okay, hey, take it easy.
Come on, sit down. What are you letting him get you all upset for?
Let's calm down now. Let's try to keep it peaceful in here. Now, whose turn is it? Okay, how about you?
I'd like to pass.
Well, that's your privilege. How about the next gentleman?
I don't know. I started being convinced, very early in the case. Well, I was looking for the motive. That's very important. If there's no motive, where's the case? So anyway, that testimony from those people across the hall from the kid's apartment, that was very powerful. Didn't they say something about an argument between a father and a boy around 7 o'clock at night? I mean, I could be wrong.
It was 8 o'clock, not 7.
That's right, 8 o'clock. They heard an argument, but they couldn't hear what it was about. Then they heard the father hit the boy twice, and finally they saw the boy walk angrily out of the house. Now, what does that prove?
Well, it doesn't exactly prove anything. It's just a part of the picture. I didn't say it proved anything.
You said it revealed a motive for the killing. The prosecuting attorney said the same thing. Well, I don't think it's a very strong motive. This boy has been hit so many times in his life that violence is practically a normal state of affairs for him. I can't see 2 slaps in his face provoking him into committing murder.
It may have been 2 slaps too many. Everyone has a breaking point.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, how about the next gentleman?
Oh, me? I don't know. It's practically all been said already, Look, we could talk about this forever. I mean, the kid is 0 for 5. Look at his record. He's in children's court when he was 10 for throwing a rock at his teacher. 14, he's in reform school, he stole a car. He's been arrested for mugging, picked up twice for trying to slash another teenager with a knife. He's real quick with switch knives, they say. Yeah, this is a very fine boy.
Ever since he was 5 years old, his father beat him up regularly. He used his fists.
So would I, kid like that.
Wouldn't you call those beatings a motive for him to kill his father?
I don't know. It's a motive for him to be an angry kid, I'll say that.
It's the kids, the way they are nowadays. Angry, hostile, you can't do a damn thing with them. Just the way they talk to you. Listen. When I was his age, I used to call my father Sir. That's right, Sir. Now, you ever hear a boy call his father that anymore?
Fathers don't seem to think it's important anymore.
Now, have you got any kids?
2.
Yeah, well, yeah. I got one. He's 20. We did everything for that boy, and what happened? When he was 9, he ran away from a fight. I saw him. I was so ashamed, I almost threw up. So I told him right out, I'm going to make a man out of you or bust you in half trying. Well, I made a man out of him, all right. When he was 16, we had a battle. He hit me in the face. He's big, you know. I hadn't seen him in 2 years, rotten kid. You know, you work your heart out. All right, let's get on with it.
I think we're missing the point here. This boy, let's say he is a product of a filthy neighborhood and a broken home. We can't help that. We're here to decide whether he's guilty or innocent of murder, not to go into reasons why he grew up this way. He was born in a slum. Slums are breeding grounds for criminals. I know it, so do you. It's no secret. Children from slum backgrounds are potential menaces to society. Now, I think that what we need to do...
you can say that again. The kids who crawl out of those places are real trash. I don't want any part of them until...
I lived in the slum all my life.
No, wait a second.
I nursed that trash in Harlem Hospital 6 nights a week. I used to play in the backyard that was filled with garbage. Maybe there's some that still smells on me.
Now, listen, buddy, listen.
Now, let's be reasonable. It's nothing personal.
There is something personal.
Come on, now, you didn't mean you, fella. Let's not be so sensitive.
This sensitivity, I understand.
All right, let's stop all the arguing. We're wasting time here. Okay, it's your turn. Let's go.
I didn't expect a turn. I thought you were supposed to be convincing me. Wasn't that the idea?
Check, that was the idea.
I forgot about that. Yeah, he's right.
All right, so what's the difference? He's the one who's keeping us here. Let's hear what he's got
Well,
to say.
no, just a second. I mean, we decided to do this a certain way, so let's stick to what we said.
Stop being a kid, will you?
A kid? What do you mean by that?
What do you think I mean? K-I-D, kid.
What do you mean? Just because I'm trying to keep this thing organized? All right, listen. Hey, you want to do it? Here. No, you do it. You take the responsibility. I'll just shut up, that's all.
Listen, what are you getting so hot about? Calm down.
No, don't tell me to calm down. Here's a chair. You keep it going smooth and everything. What do you think? It's a snap? Come on, Mr. Foreman. Let's see how great you'd run the show.
Did you ever see such a thing?
What do you think? It's funny?
Hey, take it easy. The whole thing's unimportant.
Unimportant? You want to try it?
No, listen. You're doing a beautiful job. Nobody wants to change.
Yeah, you're doing great. Hang in there and pitch.
All right, let's hear from somebody.
Well, if you want me to tell you how I feel about it right now, that's all right with me.
I don't care what you do.
All right, I haven't got anything brilliant. I only know as much as you do. According to the testimony, the boy looks guilty, and maybe he is. I sat there in court for 3 days listening while the evidence built up. Everybody sounded so positive that I started to get a peculiar feeling about this trial. I mean, nothing is that positive. I had questions I would have liked to ask. Maybe they wouldn't have meant anything, I don't know. But I started to feel that the defense counsel wasn't doing his job. He let too many things go, little things.
What little things? Listen, when these guys don't ask questions, that's because they know the answers already, and they figure they'll be hurt.
Maybe. It's also possible for a lawyer to be just plain stupid, isn't it?
You sound like you met my brother-in-law.
Now, I kept putting myself in the boy's place. I would have asked for another lawyer, I think. I mean, if I was on trial for my life, I'd want my lawyer to tear the prosecution witnesses to shreds, or at least to try. Look, there was one alleged eyewitness to this killing. Someone else claims he heard the killing and then saw the boy running out afterwards. There was a lot of circumstantial evidence. But actually, those 2 witnesses were the entire case for the prosecution. We're dealing with a human life here. Supposing they were wrong.
What do you mean, supposing they were wrong? What's the point of having witnesses at all?
Could they be wrong?
They sat on the stand under oath. What are you trying to say?
They're only people. People make mistakes. Could they be wrong?
No, I don't think so.
Do you know so?
Well, now, listen. All right, nobody can know a thing like that. This isn't an exact science.
That's right, it isn't.
All right, let's try to get to the point here. Now, what about the switch knife they found in the father's chest?
Wait a minute. I think we ought... I mean, there are some people who haven't talked yet. Now, shouldn't we
Look,
always follow...
Just be quiet a second, will you? Okay, now, what about the knife? You know, the one that fine, upright boy admitted buying on the night of the murder? Let's talk about that.
All right, let's talk about it. Let's get the knife in here and look at it. I'd like to see it again. Mr. Foreman.
Oh, brother.
We all know what it looks like. What's the point of seeing it again?
Well, you brought it up. The gentleman has a right to see exhibits and evidence. The knife and the way it was bought is pretty strong evidence, don't you think so?
I do.
Good. Now, suppose we take these facts one at a time. 1, the boy admitted going out of his house at 8 o'clock on the night of the murder after being punched several times.
He didn't say punched. He said hit. There's a difference between a slap and a punch.
After being hit several times by his father. 2, the boy went directly to a neighborhood junk shop where he bought, what do you call these things?
Switch knives.
A switchblade knife, thank you. 3, this wasn't what you'd call an ordinary knife. It had a very unusual carved handle. 4, the storekeeper who sold it to him identified the knife in court and said it was the only one of its kind he'd ever had in stock.
That's right.
5, at about 8:45, the boy ran into 3 friends of his in front of a diner. Am I correct so far?
Yes, you are.
You bet he is. Now listen to this man. He knows what he's talking about.
The boy talked with his friends for about an hour, leaving them at about 9:45. During this time, they saw the switch knife. 6, each of them identified the death weapon in court as that same knife. And 7, the boy arrived home at about 10 o'clock. Now, this is where the stories offered by the boy in the state begin to diverge slightly. He claims that he stayed home until 11:30 and then went to one of those all-night movies. He returned home at about 3:15 in the morning to find his father dead and himself arrested. Now, what happened to the switch knife? This is the charming and imaginative little fable the boy invented. He claims that the knife fell through a hole in his pocket sometime between 11:30 and 3:15 while he was on a trip to the movies, and that he never saw it again. Now, this is a tale, gentlemen. I think it's quite clear that the boy never went to the movies that night. No one in the house saw him go out at 11:30. No one at the theater identified him. He couldn't even remember the names of the pictures he saw. Now, what actually happened is this. The boy stayed home, had another fight with his father, stabbed him to death with the knife at 10 minutes after 12, and fled from the house. He even remembered to wipe the knife clean of fingerprints. Everyone connected with the case identified the knife. Now, are you trying to tell me that it really fell through a hole in the boy's pocket and that someone picked it up off the street, went to the boy's house, and stabbed his father just to be amusing?
No, I'm saying it's possible that the boy lost the knife and that someone else stabbed his father with a similar knife. It's possible.
Here it is, gentlemen.
Take a look at that knife. I've never seen one like it before. Neither had the storekeeper who sold it to the boy. Aren't you asking us to accept a pretty incredible coincidence?
I'm not asking anyone to accept it. I'm just saying that it's possible.
And I'm saying it's not possible.
No?
Where'd that knife come from? What are you trying to do?
Quiet! Let's be quiet. Where'd you get that knife?
It's the same knife.
I was walking for a couple of hours last night just thinking. I walked through the boy's neighborhood. The knife comes from a little pawn shop 3 blocks from his house. It costs $2.
It's against the law to buy or sell switchblade knives.
That's right. I broke the law.
Listen, you pulled a really bright trick here. Now supposing you tell me what you proved. Maybe there are 10 knives like that, so what?
Maybe there are.
So what does that mean? It's the same kind of knife, so what's that? The discovery of the age or something?
It does not change the fact that it would still be an incredible coincidence for another person to have stabbed their father with the same kind of knife.
That's right, he's right.
The odds are 1,000,000
It's
to 1.
possible.
But not very probable.
It is interesting that he'd find a knife exactly like the one the boy bought.
What's interesting? You think it proves anything?
No, well, it's just that I
Interesting.
thought
Listen,
it was...
how come the kid bought the knife to begin
Well,
with?
he claims that he bought it as a
I know,
gift.
he claims he bought it as a present for a friend of his. He was going to give it to him the next day because he busted the other kid's knife dropping it on the pavement.
That's what he said.
Baloney.
The friend testified that the boy did break his knife.
Yeah, and how long before the killing? 3 weeks, right? So how come our noble lad bought this knife 1/2 hour after his father smacked him and 3.5 hours before they found it shoved up here in the father's chest?
Well, he was going to give the knife to his friend. He just wanted to use it for a minute.
Let me ask you this. It's one of the questions I wanted to ask in court. If the boy bought the knife to use on his father, how come he showed what was going to be the murder weapon to 3 friends of his just a couple of hours before the killing?
Listen, all of this is just talk. The boy lied and you know
He
it.
may have lied. Do you think he lied?
No, that's a stupid question. Sure he lied.
Do you?
You know my answer. He lied.
Do you think he lied?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure about what? Now, wait a second. What are you, the kid's lawyer or something? Who do you think you are to start cross-examining us?
Isn't that what's supposed to happen in a jury room?
Listen, there's still 11 of us in here who think he's guilty.
Yeah, what do you think you're going to accomplish? You're not going to change anybody's mind. So you want to be stubborn, hang this jury? Go ahead. Kid'll be tried again and found guilty, sure as he's born.
You're probably right.
So what are you going to do about it? We're going to be here all night.
It's only one night. A boy may die.
Oh, brother. Anybody got a deck of cards?
I don't think he ought to make a joke about it, Mr. Foreman.
Well, what do you want me to do about it?
Listen, I don't see what all this stuff about the knife has to do with anything. Somebody saw the kid stab his father. What more do we need? I got 3 garages of mine going to pot while you're talking. Let's get done and get out of here.
No, the knife was very important to the district attorney. He spent
He's
one whole
a 15th
morning...
assistant or something. What does he know?
Okay. Now, I think we ought to get on with it now. These side arguments only slow us up, so what about it?
You're the only one.
I have a proposition to make to all of you. I want to call for a vote. I'd like you 11 men to vote by secret written ballot. I'll abstain. If there are still 11 votes for guilty, I won't stand alone. We'll take a guilty verdict into the judge right now. But if anyone votes not guilty, we'll stay and talk this thing out. Well, that's all. If you want to try it, I'm ready.
Well, finally you're behaving like a reasonable man.
Check, I'll buy that.
Okay, let's do it.
Well, that sounds fair, so anyone doesn't agree?
No.
Okay, here, pass out these slips of paper, and okay, you hand them back when you're done. Got them? All right. Okay. Guilty. 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 Not guilty. And guilty.
How do you like that?
And another one flips his goddamn wig.
All right. Who was it? Come on, I want to know.
Excuse me, this was a secret ballot. We agreed on this.
Secret? What do you mean secret? There are no secrets in a jury room. I know who it was. Brother, you are really something. You come here and vote guilty like everybody else. And then this golden-voiced preacher over here starts to tear your heart out with stories about a poor little kid who just couldn't help but becoming a murderer, so you change your vote. If that isn't the most sickening, why don't you just drop a quarter in his
wait
collection
a minute.
box?
You can't talk to me like that. No. Where does he get the right to shout at me?
All right, let's calm down.
Who does he think he is? I mean, did you hear him?
Just sit down. He's very excitable. Forget it. It doesn't matter.
You better be excitable. We're trying to put a guilty man into the chair where he belongs, and all of a sudden, somebody's feeding us fairy tales and we're listening.
Take it easy.
What do you mean, take it easy? You want to see a proven murderer walking the streets? Why don't we just give him his knife back? Make it easier for him.
Okay. Now let's stop the yelling. Now who's got something constructive to say?
Please, I would like to say something here. I have always thought that in this country, a man was entitled to have unpopular opinions.
Let's stick to the subject.
Now, let him talk.
What made you change your vote?
He didn't change his vote. I did.
What?
Would you like me to tell you why?
No, I wouldn't like you to tell me why.
Well, I'd like to make it clear anyway, if you don't mind.
Do we have to listen to this?
Hey, look! The man wants to talk.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. This gentleman has been standing alone against us. He doesn't say the boy is not guilty, he just isn't sure. Well, it's not easy to stand alone against the ridicule of others. He gambled for support and I gave it to him. I respect his motives. The boy on trial is probably guilty, but I want to hear more. For the time being, the vote is 10-2. I'm talking here. You've no right to walk away.
He can't hear you. He never will.
It's true.
Well, if the speech is over, maybe we can go on.
I think we ought to take a break. One man's inside to John. Let's wait for him. A cigarette?
No.
Looks like we're really hung up here. I mean, that thing with the old man was pretty unexpected. I wish I knew how we could break this up. You know, in advertising, I told you I worked at an ad agency, didn't I? Well, there's some pretty strange people. Not strange, really. They just have peculiar ways of expressing themselves, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Well, it's probably the same in your business, right? What do you do?
I'm a watchmaker.
Really? The finest watchmakers come from Europe, I imagine. Anyway, I was telling you, in the agency, when they reach a point like this in a meeting, there's always some character ready with an idea, and it kills me. I mean, it's the weirdest thing sometimes, the way they precede the idea with some kind of phrase. Like, oh, some account exec will say, here's an idea, let's run it up the flagpole and see if anyone salutes it. Or put it on the bus and see if it gets off at Wall Street. I mean, it's idiotic, but it's funny.
Look, I was a little excited. Well, you know how it is. I didn't mean to get nasty or anything. Hey, I'm talking to you.
Say, you a salesman?
I'm an architect.
You know what the soft sell is? You're pretty good at it. I'll tell you, me, I got a different technique. Jokes, drinks. Knock 'em on their asses. I made $16,000 last year selling marmalade. It's not bad, considering marmalade. What are you getting out of this, kicks? The boy is guilty, pal. So let's go home before we get sore throats.
What's the difference whether you get one here or at the ball game?
No difference, pal. No difference at all.
Nice bunch of guys.
I guess they're the same as any.
That loud-mouthy guy, the one who was telling us about his kid, the way he was talking. Boy, that was an embarrassing thing. What a murderous day. Think we'll be here much longer?
I don't know.
He's guilty for sure. There's not a doubt in the whole world. We should have been done already. Listen, I don't care, It beats working. You think he's innocent?
I don't know. It's possible.
I don't know you, but I'm betting you've never been wronger in your life. You ought to wrap it up. You're wasting your time.
Suppose you were the one on trial.
I'm not used to supposing. I'm just a working man. My boss does the supposing. But I'll try one. Suppose you talk us all out of this and the kid really did knife his father.
Okay, let's take seats.
Looks like we'll be here for dinner.
Okay, now let's get down to business. Who wants to start it off?
Well,
Maybe
I'd
it
like
would
to
be
make a point.
profitable if...
Pardon me.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead. It's all right.
Well, I was going to say, well, this is probably a small point, but anyway, the boy had a motive for the killing, the beatings and all. So if he didn't do it, who did? Who else had the motive? That's my point. I mean, nobody goes out and kills someone without a motive, not unless he's just plain nuts, right?
As far as I know, we're supposed to decide whether or not the boy on trial is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. We're not concerned with anyone else's motives here. That's a job for the police.
Very true, but we can't help letting ourselves think about what the motive was and let it creep into our thoughts, now can we? And we can't help asking ourselves who else might have had a motive. Logically, these things follow. This gentleman is asking a reasonable question. Somebody killed him. If it wasn't the boy, who was it?
Modulewski.
You're talking about the man I love.
If you can't talk about anything but baseball, I suggest you listen.
Okay, it's just letting off steam. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, maybe you can answer me. Who else might have killed the father?
Well, I don't know. The father wasn't exactly a model citizen. The boy's lawyer outlined his background in his closing statement. He was in prison once. He was known to be a compulsive gambler and a pretty consistent loser. He spent a lot of time in neighborhood bars, and he'd get into fist fights sometimes after a couple of drinks, usually over a woman. He was a tough, cruel, primitive kind of man who never held a job for more than 6 months in his life. So here are a few possibilities. He could have been murdered by one of many served time with in prison, by a bookmaker, by a man he'd beaten up, by a woman he'd picked up, by any one of the people he was known to hang out with.
Oh, boy, that's the biggest load of crap I have... Listen, we know the father was a bum, so what does that got to do with anything?
I didn't bring it up. I was asked who else might have killed him. I gave my answer.
This gentleman asked a direct question.
Everyone's a lawyer.
Look, suppose you answer this for me. The old man who lived downstairs heard the kid yell out, "I'm gonna kill you."
Yeah.
A split second later, he heard a body hit the floor. Then he saw the kid run out of the house. Now, what does all that mean to you?
I was wondering how clearly the old man could have heard the boy's voice through the ceiling.
He didn't hear it through the ceiling. His window was open. So was the window upstairs. It was a hot night,
The
remember?
voice came from another apartment. It's not easy to identify a voice, especially a shouting voice.
He picked it in court. He picked the boy's voice out of 5 other voices blindfolded.
That was just an ambitious district attorney putting on a show. Look, the old man knows the boy's voice very well. They've lived in the same house for years. But to identify it positively from the apartment downstairs, isn't it possible he was wrong? That maybe he thought the boy was upstairs and automatically decided that the voice he heard was the boy's voice.
I think that's a bit far-fetched.
Oh, brother, you could say that again. Look, the old man heard the father's body falling. Then he saw the boy run out of the house. 15 seconds later, he saw the boy.
Check. And don't forget the woman across the street. She looked right into the open window and saw the boy stab his father. I mean, isn't that enough for you?
Not right now. No, it isn't.
Oh, how do you like him? It's like talking into a dead
The
phone.
woman saw the killing through the windows of a moving elevated train. The train had 6 cars, and she saw it through the windows of the last 2 cars. She remembered the most insignificant details. I don't see how you can argue with that.
Well, what do you got to say about it?
I don't know. It doesn't sound right.
Well, suppose you think about it. Lend me your pencil.
Yeah, sure.
I wonder if anybody has any idea how long it takes an elevated train...
Okay, what do you want, X's or O's?
Oh, I'll be X's.
You're playing tic-tac-toe.
Hey, wait a
This
minute!
isn't a game!
Hey, who do you think you are?
Come on now, sit down.
Hey, I've got a good mind to belt him
Now,
one.
please, look, I don't want any fights in here, and I don't want anybody playing tic-tac-toe.
Did you see
either.
him? The nerve, the absolute
All right,
nerve.
forget it. It's not important, know what I mean?
This isn't a game. Who does he think he's dealing with
Okay,
here?
come on now. It's all over. Now,
What's
let's
all over?
take
I
our
want an
seats.
apology.
Okay, Noisy. He apologizes. Now let's hear what the man has to say.
Thank you. I wonder if anybody has an idea how long it takes an elevated train going at medium speed to pass a given point.
What has that got to do with
How
anything?
long? Take a guess.
I wouldn't have the slightest idea.
What do you think?
I don't know, about 10 or 12 seconds, maybe.
What's all this for?
Well, I'd say that was a fair guess. Anyone else?
That sounds right to me.
Come on, what's the guessing
What
game
would
for?
you say?
10 seconds, approximately.
All right, say 10 seconds. What are you getting at?
This. It takes a 6-car L train 10 seconds to pass a given point. Now, say that given point is the open window of the room in which the killing took place. You can almost reach out the window of that room and touch the L tracks, right?
Right.
All right, now let me ask you this. Has anyone ever lived right next to the L tracks?
Well, I just finished painting an apartment that overlooked an L line. I'm a house painter, you know. I was there for 3 days.
What was it like?
What do you mean?
Noisy?
Brother, well, it didn't matter. We're all punchy in our business anyway.
I lived in a second-floor apartment next to an L line once. When the windows opened and the train goes by, the noise is almost unbearable. You can't hear yourself think.
Okay, you can't hear yourself think. Will you get to the
I
point?
will. Let's take 2 pieces of testimony and try to put them together. First, the old man in the apartment downstairs. He says he heard the boy say, "I'm going to kill you," and a split second later he heard the body hit the floor. 1 second later, right?
That's right.
Second, the woman in the apartment across the street, she claimed positively that she looked out of her window and saw the killing through the last 2 cars of a passing elevated train, right? The last 2 cars.
All right, what point are you
Now,
making
we
here?
agreed that an L train takes about 10 seconds to pass a given point. Since the woman saw the stabbing through the last 2 cars, we can assume that the body fell to the floor just as the train passed by. Therefore, the L train had been roaring by the old man's window for a full 10 seconds before the body fell. The old man, according to his own testimony, hearing, "I'm gonna kill you," and the body falling a split second later, would have had to hear the boy make this statement while the L was roaring past his nose. It's not possible that he could have heard it.
That's idiotic. Sure, he could have heard it.
Do you think so?
The old man said the boy yelled it out. That's enough for me.
If he heard anything at all, he still couldn't have identified the voice with the L roaring by.
You're talking about a matter of seconds here. Nobody can be that accurate.
Well, I think that testimony which could put a human being into the electric chair should be that accurate.
I don't think he could have heard it.
Yeah, maybe he didn't hear it. I mean, with the L noise.
What are you people talking about?
Well, it stands to reason.
You're crazy. Why should he lie? What's he got to gain?
Attention, maybe?
You keep coming up with these bright sayings. Why don't you send one into a newspaper? They pay $3.
Hey, what are you talking to him like that for? A guy who talks like that to an old man ought to really get stepped on,
Hey,
you know?
keep your hands off me.
You ought to have some respect, mister. If you say stuff like that to him again, I'm going to lay you out. Go ahead. You can say anything you want. Why do you think the old man might lie?
It's just that I looked at him for a very long time. The seam of his jacket was split under his arm. Did you notice it? I mean, to come into court like that. He was a very old man with a torn jacket, and he walked very slowly to the stand. He was dragging his left leg and trying to hide it because he was ashamed. I think I know him better than anyone here. This is a quiet, frightened, insignificant old man who has been nothing all his life, who has never had any recognition or his name in the newspapers. Nobody knows him, nobody quotes him, nobody seeks his advice after 75 years. That's a very sad thing, to be nothing. A man like this needs to be recognized, to be listened to be quoted just once. This is very important. It would be so hard for him to recede into the background.
Wait a minute. You're trying to tell us that he'd lie just so he could be important once?
No, he wouldn't really lie, but perhaps he'd make himself believe that he'd heard those words and recognized the boy's face.
Well, that's the most fantastic story I've ever heard. How can you make up a thing like that? Now, what do you know about it?
I speak from experience.
What?
I am the same man.
I think we all understand now. Thank you.
Well, if you want to admit you're a liar, it's all right with me.
Now that's too much.
Hey, he's a liar.
He didn't say he was a liar, he was explaining.
A liar's a liar, that's all.
Please, have some compassion.
Gentlemen, this case is based on a reasonable and logical progression of facts. Let's keep it there.
Facts may be colored by the personalities of the people who present them.
Anybody want a cough drop?
I'll take one.
Say what you like. I still don't see how anybody can think the boy's not guilty.
There's another thing I wanted to talk about just for a minute. I think we've proved that the old man couldn't have heard the boy say, "I'm going to kill you." But supposing he really did hear it.
You didn't
But
prove it at all.
supposing
What
he
are you
really
talking about?
did hear it, this phrase, how many times has each of us used it? Probably hundreds. I could kill you for that, darling. If you do that once more, Junior, I'm going to kill you. Come on, Rocky, kill him. We say it every day. It doesn't mean we're going to kill someone.
Now, wait a minute. What are you trying to give us here? The phrase was, "I'm gonna kill you," and the kid screamed it out at the top of his lungs. Don't tell me he didn't mean it. Anybody says a thing like that the way he said it, they mean it.
And Gina, I don't know. I remember I was arguing with the guy I work next to at the bank a couple of weeks ago, so he called me an idiot. So I yelled at him.
Now, listen,
and he
this
said,
guy's trying to make you believe things that aren't so. Now, the kid said he was gonna kill him, and he did kill him.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you really think the boy would shout a thing like that so the whole neighborhood would hear it? I don't think so. He's much too bright for that.
Right. He's a common, ignorant slob. He don't even speak good English.
He doesn't even speak good English.
I'd like to change my vote to not guilty.
Oh, you gotta be kidding.
You heard.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
The vote is 9-3 in favor of guilty.
Well, if this isn't the living end, what are you basing it on? What, stories this guy made up? He ought to write for Amazing Detective Monthly. He'd make a fortune. Listen, there are facts staring you right in the face. Every one of them says this kid killed his old man. For crying out loud. His own lawyer knew he didn't stand a chance right from the beginning. His own lawyer. You could see it. He deserves the electric chair.
Does he? It's happened before that someone's been convicted of murder and executed, and years later someone else confessed to the crime. Sometimes the facts that are staring you in the face are wrong.
I'm talking to him, not you. Boy, this guy's really something. Listen, the kid had a lawyer, didn't he? The lawyer presented his case, not you. How come you got so much to say?
The lawyer was court-appointed.
So what does that mean?
Well, it could mean a lot of things. It could mean he didn't want the case. It could mean he resented being appointed. It's the kind of case that brings him nothing. No money, no glory, not even much chance of winning. It's not a very promising situation for a young lawyer. He'd really have to believe in his client to make a good fight. And as you pointed out a minute ago, he obviously didn't.
Sure he didn't. Who in hell could? Except God come to earth or somebody. Come on already, please. Will you look at the time?
Pardon me, I've made some notes here.
Notes yet?
I would like to please say something. I have been listening very closely, and it seems to me that this man has some very good points to make. From what was presented at the trial, the boy looks guilty, but maybe if we go deeper, we can find something that...
Come on, will you? Come on.
There is a question I would like to ask. We assume that the boy committed murder. He stabbed his father in the chest and ran away. Now, this was at 10 minutes after 12. Now, how is he caught by the police? He came home at 3 o'clock or so and was captured by 2 detectives in the hallway of his house. My question is, if he really had killed his father, why would he come back 3 hours later? Wouldn't he be afraid of being caught?
Look, he came home to get his knife. It's not nice to leave knives sticking around in people's chests.
Yeah. Especially relatives.
The boy knew that there were people who could identify the knife as the one he had just bought. He had to get it before the police did.
But if he knew that the knife could be identified, why did he leave it there in the first place?
Well, I think we can assume he ran out in a state of panic after he killed his father, and then, when he finally calmed down, he realized that he had left the knife there.
That depends on your definition of panic. He was calm enough to see to it that there were no fingerprints on the knife. Now, where did his panic start, and where did it end?
Look, you can forget all that other stuff. He still came home to dig out his knife and get rid of it.
3 hours later?
Sure, 3 hours later.
If I were the boy and I had killed my father, I would not have come home 3 hours later. I would be afraid that the police would be there. I would stay away, knife or no knife.
Listen, you voted guilty, didn't you? What side are you on?
I don't believe I have to be loyal to one side or the other. I am simply asking questions.
Well, this is just off the top of my head, but if I were the boy and I'd, done the stabbing and everything, I'd take a chance and go back for the knife. I'll bet he figured no one had seen him, and the body probably wasn't even discovered yet. After all, it was the middle of the night. He probably thought no one would find the body till the next day.
Pardon, here is my whole point. The woman across the street testified that a moment after she saw the killing, that is, a moment after the L train went by, she screamed. and then went to telephone the police. Now, the boy must certainly have heard that scream and known that somebody saw something. I don't think he would have gone back if he had been the murderer.
2 points. 1. In his state of panic, he may not have heard the scream. Perhaps it wasn't very loud. 2, if he did hear it, he may not have connected it with his own act. Remember, he lived in a neighborhood where screams were fairly commonplace.
Right, there's your answer.
Maybe he did stab his father. Didn't hear the woman scream. Did run out in a panic. Did calm down 3 hours later and came to try to get his knife, risking being caught by the police. Maybe all those things are so. But maybe they're not. I think there's enough doubt to make us wonder whether he was there at all during the time the murder took place.
What do you mean, doubt? What are you talking about? Didn't the old man see him run out of the house? He's twisting the facts, I'm telling you. Did or didn't the old man see the kid running out of the house at 12:10? Well, did he or didn't he?
He says he did.
Says he did. Boy, oh boy, how do you like that? Well, did or didn't the woman across the street see the kid kill his father? She says she did. You're making out like she doesn't matter what people say. What you want to believe, you believe. What you don't want to believe, so you don't. What kind of way is that? What do you think these people get up on the witness stand for? Their health? I'm telling you, man, the facts are being twisted around here. Witnesses are being doubted, and there's no reason for it.
Witnesses can make mistakes.
Sure, when you want them to, they do. Know what I mean?
Okay, let's hold the yelling down.
You keep saying that. Maybe what we need is a little yelling around here. These guys are going off every which way. Did hear the scream, didn't hear the scream. What's the difference? They're just little details. You forget the important stuff. I mean, all of a sudden,
I'd like
everybody
to call
here
for another vote.
Listen, I'm talking here.
Okay, another vote has been called for. How about taking seats?
What, are we going to game by voting again?
I don't know. The gentleman asked for
I
a
never
vote.
saw so much time spent on nothing.
It only takes a second.
Okay, now I guess the fastest way is to find out who's voting not guilty. So all those in favor of not guilty, raise their hands. All right, still the same. 1, 2, 3 not guilties, 9 guilty.
So where are we? I'm telling you, we can yakety-yak until next Tuesday here. Where's it getting us?
Pardon. I vote not guilty.
Oh, brother.
Oh, now listen, what are you talking about? I mean, we're all going crazy in here or something. This kid is guilty. Why don't you pay attention to the facts? Listen, tell him, will you? This is going to be a goddamn joke.
The vote is 8-4, favor of guilty.
I mean, everybody's heart is starting to bleed for this punk little kid. Like the president just declared it Love Your Underprivileged Brother Week or something. Now, listen, I'd like you to tell me why you changed your vote. Come on, give me reasons.
I don't have to defend my decision to you. I have a reasonable doubt in my mind.
What reasonable doubt? That's nothing but words. Here, look at this knife. Now, the kid you just decided isn't guilty was seen ramming this thing into his father. Well, look at it, Mr. Reasonable Doubt.
That's not the knife. Don't you remember?
Brilliant.
Oh, I'm telling you, this is the craziest. I mean, you're sitting in here, pulling stories out of thin air. What are we supposed to believe? I'm telling you, if this guy was sitting ringside at the Dempsey-Firpo fight, he'd be trying to tell us Firpo won. Okay, look, what about the old man? Are we supposed to believe that he didn't get up, run to his door, see the kid tearing down the stairs 15 seconds after the killing? He's only saying he did to be important? I mean, the whole point of this whole...
Hold it a second.
Wow, and the Pittsburgh rooter is heard from.
Wait, did the old man say he ran to the door?
Ran, walked, what's the difference? He got there.
He said he ran to the door. At least I think he did.
I don't remember what he said, but I don't see how he could run.
He said he went from his bedroom to the front door. That's enough.
Wait a minute. Where was his bedroom again?
Down the hall somewhere. I thought you remembered everything. Don't you remember that?
No, Mr. Foreman, I'd like to take a look at the diagram of the apartment.
Why don't we have him
Mr.
run the
Foreman?
trial over, just so
Mr.
you can get
Foreman?
everything straight?
I heard you.
All right, what's this all for? How come you're the only one in the room who wants to see exhibits all the time?
I want to see this one, too.
And I want to stop wasting time.
If we're going to start wading through all that business about where the body was
No,
found...
we're not. Not unless someone else wants to. I'd like to see if a very old man who drags one leg when he walks because he had a stroke last year can get from his bed to his front door in 15 seconds.
He said 20 seconds.
He said 15.
I'm telling you, he said 20. What are you trying to distort everything?
He said 15.
How does he know how long 15 seconds is? You can't judge that kind of thing.
He said 15 seconds. He was very positive about it.
He's an old man. You saw him. Half the time he was confused. How can he be positive about anything?
I don't see what we're out to prove here. The man said he saw the boy running out.
Okay, here's the diagram.
Well, let's see if the details bear him out. As soon as the body fell to the floor, he said he heard footsteps upstairs running towards the front door. He heard the upstairs door open and the footsteps start down the stairs. He got to his front door as soon as he could. He swore it couldn't have been more than 15 seconds. Now, if the killer began running immediately...
Well, maybe he didn't.
The old man said he did.
You know, you ought to be down in Atlantic City at that hair splitters convention.
Listen, baseball. Why don't you stop making smart remarks all the time?
My friend, for your $3 a day, you gotta listen to everything.
Now that you've got that diagram in here, what about it?
This is the apartment in which the killing took place. The old man's apartment is directly beneath and exactly the same. Here are the L tracks, the bedroom, another bedroom, bathroom, living room, kitchen, and this is the hall. Here's the front door to the apartment, and here are the stairs. Now, the old man was in bed in this room. He says he got up, went out into the hall, down the hall to the front door, opened it, and looked out just in time to see the boy racing down the stairs. Am I right so far?
That's a story for the 19th time?
15 seconds after he heard the body fall.
Correct.
His bed was at the window. It's 12 feet from his bed to the bedroom door. The length of the hall is 43 feet 6 inches. Now, he had to get up out of bed, walk 12 feet, open the bedroom door, walk 43 feet, and open the front door, all in 15 seconds. Do you think he could have done it?
Sure, he could have done it.
You know, he can only walk very slowly. They had to help him into the witness chair.
You make it sound like it's a long walk. It's not.
For an old man who had a stroke, it's a long walk.
This chair is the old man's bed.
What's going on
I
here?
want to try something here. Let's see how long it took him.
What do you mean you want to try it? Why didn't the kid's lawyer bring it up if it's so important?
Well, maybe he just didn't think of it.
What do you mean he didn't think of it? You think the man's an idiot or something? It's an obvious thing.
Did you think of it?
Listen, smart guy, don't matter whether I thought of it.
Okay, hold it down.
And he didn't bring it up because he knew the answer had hurt his case. Now what do you think of that?
Okay.
All right, here's the bed. I'm going to pace off 12 feet, the length of the bedroom.
You're crazy. You can't recreate a thing like that.
I'd like to see it.
All right, this chair is the bedroom door. The hall is a little over 43 feet long. I'll pace over to that wall and back again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
All right, look, this is absolutely insane. What's the idea of wasting everybody's time here?
Okay, according to you, it'll only take 15 seconds. We can spare that. All right, 42, 43. Okay, pass me another chair, please. This chair is the door to the outside hall and stairway. It was chain locked according to the testimony.
Right.
Who's got a watch with a second hand?
I have.
When you want me to start, stamp your foot. That'll be the body falling. Tie me from there.
Anyone for charades?
I've never seen anything like this in my whole life.
Okay, I'm ready.
Come on, let's go. Come on.
I want to wait until the second hand reaches 60. I'll stamp my foot when it does.
Come on, snap it up. He walked twice as fast as that.
No, this is, I think, even more quickly than the old man walked in the courtroom.
If you think I should go faster, I will. Okay, stop.
Right.
What's the time?
15, 20, 30, 35, 40, 42 seconds exactly.
42 seconds?
I think this is what happened. The old man heard the fight between the boy and his father a few hours earlier. Then later, while lying in bed, he heard a body hit the floor in the boy's apartment, and he heard the woman scream from across the street. He got up, tried to get to the door, heard someone racing down the stairs, and assumed it was the boy.
Assumed?
I think that's possible.
Now, listen to me, you people. I've seen all kinds of dishonesty in my day, but this little display takes the cake. You come in here with your sanctimonious talk about slum kids and injustice, and you make up some wild stories, and all of a sudden you start getting through to some of these old ladies in here. Well, you're not getting through to me. I've had enough. What's the matter with you people? Every one of you knows this kid is guilty. We're letting him slip through our fingers here.
Slip through our fingers? Are you his executioner?
I'm one of them.
Maybe you'd like to pull the switch.
For this kid, you bet I'd like to pull a switch.
I'm sorry for you.
Don't stop with me
Ever
now.
since we walked into this room, you've been behaving like a self-appointed public avenger.
I'm telling you now,
You want to
shut
see
up.
this boy die because you personally want it, not because of the facts.
Shut up.
You're a sadist.
You son of a bitch! Hey, let go of me! God damn it! Let go of me! I'll kill him! I'll kill him!
You don't really mean you'll kill me, do you?
What are y'all staring at?
Looks like it's gonna rain.
Well, yeah. I suppose someone has to started off again.
It's getting late. What do they do? I mean, do they take us out to a restaurant for supper?
Well, how do I know?
I wonder if they let us go home in case we can't finish tonight. I got a boy with the mumps. You know, he's out to here. The wife says he looks like Khrushchev.
Pardon. This fighting, this is not why we are here to fight. We have a responsibility. This, I have always thought, is a remarkable thing about democracy. That we are, what is the word? Notified. That we are notified by mail to come down to this place and decide on the guilt or innocence of a man we have never heard of before. We have nothing to gain or lose by our verdict. This is one of the reasons we are strong. We should not make it a personal thing.
If no one else has an idea, I may have a cutie here. I mean, I haven't put much thought into it. Anyway, let me throw it out on the stoop and see if the cat licks it up.
See if the cat licks it up?
Well, it wasn't much of an idea anyway.
Look how dark it's getting. We're going to have a storm. Whew, boy, it's hot. Pardon me. You haven't even loosened your tie. Don't you sweat?
No, I don't.
Listen, I was wondering if maybe we shouldn't take another vote.
Oh, great idea. Maybe we can follow this one up with dancing and refreshments.
Mr. Foreman.
Yeah, it's all right with me. Anyone doesn't want to vote?
I think we ought to have an open ballot. Call out your vote, you know. Let's see who stands where.
Oh, that sounds fair. Anyone object? The last vote was 8-4, favor of guilty. So, all right, I'll call off your jury numbers. I vote guilty. Number 2.
Not guilty.
Hey, come on.
Number 3.
Guilty.
Number 4.
Guilty.
Number 5.
Not guilty.
Number 6.
Not guilty.
Number 7.
Guilty.
Number 8.
Not guilty.
Number 9.
Not guilty.
Number 10.
Guilty.
Number 11.
Not guilty.
Number 12.
Guilty.
6-6.
And we go into extra innings here.
Boy, a 6-6. I'm telling you, some of you people in here are out of your minds. A kid like that.
I don't think the kind of boy he is has anything to do with it. The facts are supposed to determine the case.
Don't give me and yeah, I'm sick and tired of facts. You can twist them any way you like, you know what I mean?
That's exactly the point this gentleman has been making. I mean, you keep shouting at the top of your lungs. If I were a little younger, I'd... It's very hot in here.
Do you want some water?
No, thanks.
It's going to rain.
No. How'd you figure that out, Blue Eyes? Tell me, how come you switched?
Well, it just seemed to
I mean,
me...
you know you ain't got a leg to stand on. You know that, don't you?
I don't feel that way. There's a lot of details that never came out.
Details? You're just letting yourself get bulldozed by a bunch of, what do you call them, intellectuals.
No, that's not so.
Oh, come on. You're like everybody else. You think too much, you get mixed up, know what I mean?
Now, listen, I don't think that you have any right to... Loudmouth.
Whoa, look at that come down, will you? Hey, you think that'll cool things off?
Yeah, I guess so.
Boy, look at it go. You know, it reminds me of a storm we had. November something. What a storm. It was right in the middle of the game. And we're behind 7-6, but we're just starting to move the ball off tackle, you know. Boom! Boy, I'll never forget that. We had this kid, Slattery, real ox. I wish I had another one like him. I'm sorry, I probably forgot to tell you. I'm the assistant head football coach at the Andrew J. McCorkle High School. Yeah, that's in Queens. So anyway, we're moving real nice. And their line, it's coming apart. And I'm telling you, this Slattery, oh, boy. And then all of a sudden, it starts to come down, cats and dogs. And in 2 minutes, it was mud practically up to your ass. I swear I almost bawled. We couldn't go nowhere.
Come on. Let's try and get this fan going in here, huh? What do you say?
Yeah, good idea.
It must have been connected to the light switch.
Hey, some rain, huh? Well, what do you think of this thing? It's even Steven. Kind of surprising, isn't it?
Yes.
Listen, that business before, you know, where that guy was baiting me, I mean, that doesn't prove anything. Listen, I'm a very excitable person, you know. So where does he get off to call me a public avenger and a sadist and everything? Anybody in his right mind would blow his stack, wouldn't he? He was just trying to bait me.
He did an excellent job.
Okay, maybe he did. I told you, I can't help that kind of thing. I'm a certain type of person. I get moved by this. But let me tell you, I'm sincere.
Fine. We all are.
Well, isn't this the goddamnest thing you ever saw? 6 to 6. It's a joke.
What are we going to do about it? Can't we break it somehow?
Well, those 6 bastards aren't going to change their minds.
5 of them already have changed their minds. There's no reason why they can't be persuaded to do it again.
How?
Just by using logic.
Logic? Holy cow.
Now, just listen to this man. He's the only one in the room who knows
You want
anything.
my opinion?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think we should just quit.
What the hell are you talking about?
These people are something, it's like it's some kind of mission or something. Look, they're not going to switch, so let's go and tell the judge we'll be here all night for Christ's sake. Just tell them we're hung. The hell with this. I mean, what am I going to do, break my brains over some scum like that?
Well, that's the most ridiculous thing I ever... You took an oath in the courtroom. You can't just quit.
Why not?
It's dishonest. Why don't you vote not guilty?
I voted guilty because I think he's guilty.
But now you don't care what happens.
No. Why should I?
All right, let's stop this. We're not getting anywhere like this.
Well, what does he want? I gave my honest opinion.
I know.
Suppose you don't think much of it, huh?
No, I don't.
We'd like to get going here again, if you don't mind.
And what about him? Is that something?
A hung jury doesn't mean anything. They just have to start the trial with another jury. That's not what we're here for.
What the hell's the difference? A hung jury is what you're going to get.
Hey, look, would you please?
All right. All right, listen, I'll tell you what I think. We're going nowhere here. I'm ready to walk into court right now and declare a hung jury.
I go for that, too. Now, let's take it into the judge. Let the kid take his chances with 12 other guys.
I don't think the court will accept a hung jury. We haven't been in here very long.
Well, let's find out.
I'm not in favor of this.
Yeah, that's because you know the kid wouldn't stand a chance with another jury. You know it. Come on. We're hung. Nobody's going to change his opinion. Let's just take it inside.
You still don't think there's any room for reasonable doubt?
No, I don't.
Pardon, maybe you don't fully understand the term reasonable doubt.
What do you mean I don't understand it? What the hell are you to talk to me like that, huh? How do you like this guy? I'm telling you, they're all alike. He comes over this country running for his life, and before he can even take a big breath, he's telling us how to run the show, the arrogance of this guy.
You mean you're calling him arrogant because he wasn't born here? Well, I'm calling you arrogant because you were. How's that?
Please, it
Look,
doesn't
Sonny,
matter.
Sonny, it don't matter. Nobody around here is going to tell me what words I understand and what words I don't. Especially him. Because I'll knock his goddamn Middle European head off.
All right, hey, let's stop arguing for 2 minutes in here. Now, can't we stick to the subject?
I'd like to go over something, if you gentlemen don't mind. An important point for the prosecution was the fact that the boy, after he claimed he was at the movies during the hours the killing took place, couldn't name the pictures he saw or the stars who appeared in them. This gentleman has repeated that point in here several times.
That's correct. It was the only alibi the boy offered, and he himself couldn't back it up with any details.
Putting yourself in the boy's place, if you can, do you think you'd be able to remember details after an upsetting experience such as being struck in the face by your father?
I think so, if there's any special details to remember. He couldn't even remember the movies at the theater because he wasn't there that night.
According to the police testimony in court, he was questioned by the police in the kitchen of his apartment while the body of his father was lying on the floor in the bedroom. Do you think you could remember details under such circumstances?
I do.
Under great emotional stress?
Under great emotional stress.
He remembered the movies in court, he named them correctly, and he named the stars who played in them.
Yes, the lawyer took great pains to bring that out. He had 3 months from the night of the murder to the day of the trial in which to memorize them. I'll take the testimony of the policeman who interrogated him right after the murder when he couldn't remember a thing about the movies. Great emotional stress or not.
I'd like to ask you a personal question.
Go ahead.
Where were you last night?
I was home.
What about the night before last?
Come on, what is this?
It's perfectly all right. I went from the court to my office and stayed there until 8:30. Then I went straight home to bed.
And the night before that?
That was Tuesday. That was the night of the bridge tournament. I played bridge.
And Monday night?
Listen, when you get him down to New Year's Eve 1915, let me know, okay?
Monday night, my wife and I went to the movies.
What did you see?
Scarlet Circle. It's a very clever whodunit.
What was the second feature?
Well, I'll tell you in a minute. The Remarkable Mrs. something. Mrs. Bainbridge. No. Mrs. Bainbridge. The Remarkable Mrs. Bainbridge.
Excuse me, I saw that. It's called The Amazing Mrs. Bainbridge.
The Amazing Mrs. Bainbridge. Yes, I think that's right.
Who was in The Amazing Mrs. Bainbridge?
Barbara Long, I think. She's dark, very pretty girl. Barbara Long, something like that.
Who else?
Well, I've never heard of them before. It was a very inexpensive second feature with unknown actors
and you weren't under an emotional strain, were you?
No, I wasn't.
I think the point is made.
Big point.
I think it is a big point.
What? Just because he can't remember the name of some 2-bit movie star? I suppose that proves the kid was at the movies, huh?
No, but it indicates that no one can prove he wasn't. He might have been at the movies and forgotten what he saw. It's possible. If it's perfectly normal for this gentleman to forget a few details, then it's also perfectly normal for the boy. Being accused of murder isn't necessarily supposed to give him an infallible memory.
You can talk till your tongue is dragging on the floor. The boy is guilty, period. Know what I mean? My friend, who's got those cough drops?
They're all gone, my friend.
There's something we're forgetting here that I was just thinking about now that whole business with the psychiatrist had dragged on forever.
Now, don't start with all that phony psycho, whatever you call it, stuff. What a racket that is. Filling people's heads with all that junk. Listen, I've got 3 psychiatrists keeping their cars in one of my garages. The whole 3 of them are crazy.
Yeah, look, there's a point I'm trying to make
I wouldn't
here.
give you a nickel for a psychiatrist.
Why don't you let the man talk?
Thank you. Now, what I was going to say was, the psychiatrist definitely stated that the boy had strong homicidal tendencies. I mean that he was, capable of committing murder. He described all those tests, the ink blots, all that stuff, and he said the kid is definitely a killer type. Now, am I right?
Check. I think he said something about paranoid tendencies, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Whatever that is, he said it. And let's not forget, we're talking about a boy who always had murder on his mind.
His unconscious mind.
Nobody else's.
I beg pardon. In discussing this
I beg pardon? What are you so goddamn polite about?
For the same reasons you're not. It's the way I was brought up. In discussing such a thing as the murder potential, we should remember that many of us are capable of committing murder, but few of us do. We impose controls upon ourselves to prevent it. The most these psychiatric tests can accomplish along these lines is this. They can tell us that someday a particular person may commit a murder. That's all. They prove nothing.
Then how come they're admitted in evidence?
Well, they have many uses, of course. In this case, they added to the general impression the prosecution was trying to create. Perhaps we would find that if we 12 men took the same tests, 1 or 2 of us might be discovered to have unconscious desires to kill, and the potentiality of carrying them out, yet none of us has. To say that a man is capable of murder does not mean that he has committed murder.
But it can mean it. Listen, if they said the kid is capable of killing, he could have killed, couldn't he?
You're the one who said, and I quote, "I wouldn't give you a nickel for a psychiatrist's testimony."
Boy, I'm telling you, I'd
Let's just take it easy here.
What time is it?
5 of 6.
Man, look at that rain.
There goes your ball game.
Say, could I see that knife for a second?
Well, we're still tied up 6-6. Who's got a suggestion?
I have. Let's get some dinner.
Why don't we wait till 7? Give it another hour.
Okay with me.
There's something that I'd like to say. It's been bothering me a little as long as we're stuck. Well, there's this whole business about the stab wound and how it was made, the downward angle of it.
Nah, don't tell me we're going to start with that. They went over it and over it.
I know they did, but I don't go along with it. I mean, the boy is 5'7" tall. The father was 6'2". I mean, that's a difference of 7 inches. It's a very awkward thing to stab down into a chest of someone who's more than half foot taller than you are.
Give me that knife. Now, look, you're not going to be satisfied till you see it again. So I'm going to give you a little demonstration. Somebody get up. Come on, somebody get up. Come on.
I'll do it.
Okay. Now, watch this. I don't want to have to do it again. Now I'm, 6 or 7 inches shorter, right?
That's right. Maybe a little more.
Okay, let it be more. And now I come down like this.
Hey, look out!
That's not funny.
What's the matter with you?
Now, calm down. Nobody's hurt, right?
No, nobody's hurt.
All right. There's your angle. Take a look at it. Down and in. That's how I'd stab a taller man in the chest, and that's how it was done. Now, go ahead. Tell me I'm wrong.
Down and in. I guess there's no argument.
Wait a minute. Give me that knife. I hate these things. I grew up with them.
Have you seen them used in fights?
Too many of them. On my stoop, in the backyard, and a lot across the street. Switch knives came with the neighborhood where I lived. Funny, I wasn't thinking of it. I guess you try to forget those things. You don't use this kind of a knife that way. You have to hold it like this to release the blade. In order to stab downwards, you would have to change your grip.
How do you use it?
Underhanded. Like that. Anyone who's ever used a switch knife never handled it any other way.
Are you sure?
I'm sure. That's why they're made like this.
Everyone agreed that the boy is pretty handy with a knife, didn't they?
That's right.
Do you think the boy would have made the kind of wound that killed his father?
Not with the experience he had with these things, no. I don't think he would. He would go for him underhand.
How do you know? What, were you in the room when the father was killed?
No, and neither was anyone else.
Yeah, giving us a lot of mumbo-jumbo here. I don't believe it.
I don't think you can determine what type of wound this boy might or might not have made simply because he knows how to handle a knife.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
What do you think?
Well, I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I don't know. What about you?
Just a minute. According to the woman across the street...
All right. Listen. I'll tell you something. I'm a little sick of this whole thing already, all right? All this yakking's getting us nowhere, so I'm going to break it up here. I'm changing my vote to not guilty.
Yo, what?
You heard me. I've had enough.
What do you mean you've had enough? That's no answer.
Hey, listen, you worry about yourself.
Hey, he's right. That is not an answer. What kind of man are you? You have sat here and voted guilty with everyone else because there are some baseball tickets burning a hole in your pocket. Now you've changed your vote because you say you're sick of all the talking
Listen,
here.
buddy.
You have no right to play like this with a man's life. This is a terrible and ugly thing to do. Don't you care what
Now,
happens?
wait a minute. You can't talk to me like that.
I can talk to you like that. If you want to vote not guilty, then do it because you're convinced the man is not guilty, not because you've had enough. And if you think he's guilty, then vote that way. Or don't you have the guts to do what you think is right?
Now, listen.
Guilty or not guilty?
I told you, not guilty.
Why?
I don't have to say.
You do have to say it. Why?
I don't think he's guilty.
Yes.
Mr. Foreman, I want another vote.
Okay, there's another vote called for. Now, I guess the quickest way is to show of hands. Anybody object?
No, come on.
All those voting not guilty, raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm 9.
Oh.
All those voting guilty. 9-3, favor of not guilty.
I don't understand you people. I mean, all these picky little points you keep bringing up, they don't mean nothing. How can you believe this story? You're an intelligent man, and don't tell me you're not. You know the facts of life, oh, for Christ's sake. Look what we're dealing with here. You know what they're like. I mean, that guy over there, I don't know what the hell is going on with him. All that talk about psychiatrists, maybe you ought to go to one. Look, let's talk facts. These people are born to lie. Now, it's the way they are. And no intelligent man is going to tell me otherwise. They don't know what the truth is. Well, take a look at them. They're different. They think different. They act different. Well, for instance, they don't need any big excuse to kill anyone. Well, it's true. Everybody knows it. They get drunk on wine or something like that. Oh, come on, they're very big drinkers. Hey, I'm talking. Smart guy. Look at him, for Christ's sake. What does that mean, slamming the door? And then they're drunk. All of a sudden, bang, somebody's lying in the gutters. Nobody's blaming them for it. That's how they are by nature, you know what I mean? Violent. Human life don't mean as much to them as it does to us. Where you going? While you're in the toilet there, clean out your ears. Maybe you'll hear something. Look, you listen to me. These people are boozing it up and fighting all the time. And if somebody gets killed, so somebody gets killed. They don't care. Family don't mean nothing to them. They breed like animals. Fathers, mothers, they don't mean anything. Oh, sure, there are some good things about them. Look, I'm the first one to say that. I've known some who are okay, but that's the exception.
Do you know you're a sick man?
Sick?
Why don't you sit down?
You old son of a bitch. Who the hell are you?
Take it easy.
No, who the hell is he to tell me that's sick? Look at him. He can hardly stand up. Listen, I'm speaking my piece here, and you're going to listen.
Maybe if you just quiet it down.
I will like hell quiet down. There is not one of them, not one that's any good. Now, do you hear that? Not one. Now, let me lay this out for you ignorant bastards. You, at the window, you're so goddamn smart. We're facing danger here, don't you know it? These people are multiplying. That kid on trial, his type, they're multiplying. 5 times as fast as we are. That's the statistic. 5 times. And they're wild animals. They're against us. They hate us. They want to destroy us. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Don't look at me like that. There's a danger, for God's sake. We're living in a dangerous time. And if we don't watch it, if we don't smack them down, if you don't smack them down whenever we can, then they're gonna own us. They're gonna breed us out of existence.
Oh, shut up!
Now, you goddamn geniuses, I better listen to me. They're violent, they're vicious, they're ignorant, and they will cut us up. That's their intent, to cut us up. I'm warning you, this boy on trial here, we've got him. That's one at least. I say we get him before his kind gets us. How do you give a goddamn about the law? Why should I? They don't, I'm telling you.
I have heard enough. Now you just stop all this.
How would you like me to cave your head in for you, smart little bastard? Where'd you get
We've heard enough. Sit down. And don't open your filthy mouth again.
It's very hard to keep personal prejudice out of a thing like this. And no matter where you run into it, prejudice obscures the truth. Well, I don't think any real damage has been done here because I don't really know what the truth is. No one ever will, I suppose. 9 of us now seem to feel that the defendant is innocent, but we're just gambling on probabilities. We may be wrong. We may be trying to return a guilty man to the community. No one can really know, but we have a reasonable doubt. And this is a safeguard which has enormous value in our system. No jury can send a man to the electric chair unless it's sure. We 9 can't understand how you 3 are still so sure. Maybe you can tell us.
I'll try. You've made some excellent points. The last one, in which you argued that the boy couldn't have made that kind of overhand stab wound that killed his father, was very persuasive. But I still believe the boy is guilty of murder, and I have 2 reasons. 1, the evidence given by the woman across the street who actually saw the murder committed.
As far as I'm concerned, that's the most important testimony in the whole case.
And 2, the fact that this woman described the stabbing by saying she saw the boy raise his arm over his head and plunge the knife down into his father's chest. She saw him do it the wrong way.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
Now, let's talk about this woman for a minute. She said that she went to bed at about 11 o'clock that night. Her bed was next to the window, and she could look out while lying down and see directly into the boy's window across the tracks. She tossed and turned for over an hour, unable to fall asleep. Finally, she turned towards the window at about 10 minutes after 12, and as she looked out, she saw the killing through the windows of the passing L train. She says that the lights went out immediately after the killing, but that she got a good look at the boy in the act of stabbing his father. Now, as far as I can see, this is unshakable testimony.
That's what I mean. That's the whole case.
What do you think? How about you?
Well, I don't know. There's so much evidence to sift. This is a pretty complicated business.
Frankly, I don't see how we can vote for acquittal.
Well, it's not so easy to arrange the evidence in order.
Look, you can throw out all the other evidence. A woman saw him do it. What else do you want?
Well, maybe.
Let's vote on it.
Okay. There's another vote called for. Does anybody object?
I'm changing my vote. I vote guilty.
Anybody else? The vote's 8-4.
What makes you consider this one vote a personal triumph?
I'm the competitive type. Okay, now, here's what I think. I think we're a hung jury. Let's take it inside to the judge.
You didn't want a hung jury before.
Well, I want it now.
I don't understand that. You thought he was immoral.
I don't anymore. Look, there are people in here who are so goddamn stubborn that you can't even... Look. We'll never get this thing done. We'll be here for a week. Well, I want to hear an argument. I say we're a hung jury. Come on. You're the leader of the cause. What about it?
Let's go over it again.
We went over it again. J. Walter Thompson over there's bouncing backwards and forwards like a goddamn tennis ball.
Wait a second. You have no right
I apologize on my knees. Come on. Let's get out from under this thing.
All right. Maybe we can talk about setting some kind of time limit. The time is...
6:15.
6:15. Someone before mentioned 7 o'clock. I think that's a point in which we might begin to discuss the question of whether we're a hung jury.
Don't you feel well?
I feel perfectly well, thank you. I was saying that 7 o'clock might be a reasonable
The
time.
The reason I asked about that was because you were rubbing your nose. I'm sorry for interrupting, but you made a gesture.
I'm trying to settle something here. Do you mind?
Well, I think this is important.
Very well.
Thank you. I'm sure you'll pardon me for this, but I was wondering why you keep rubbing your nose like that.
Come on now, will you, please?
Well, right now I happen to be talking to this gentleman here. Now, why were you rubbing your nose?
Well, if it's any of your business, I was rubbing it because it bothers me.
I'm sorry. Is it because of your eyeglasses?
It is. Now, could we get on to something else?
Your eyeglasses make those deep impressions on the sides of your nose. I hadn't noticed that before. They must be annoying.
They're very annoying.
I wouldn't know about that. I've never worn eyeglasses. You're 20/20.
Listen, will you come on already with the optometrist bit?
Well, the woman who testified that she saw the killing had those same deep marks on the sides of her nose.
That's right, she did.
Oh, please, just a minute, and then I'll be finished. Well, I don't know if anyone else noticed that about her. I didn't think about it then, but I've been going over her face in my mind. See, she had those marks. She kept rubbing them in court.
He's right. She did do that a lot.
Well, this woman was about 45 years old. She was making a tremendous effort to look 35 for her first public appearance. Heavy makeup, dyed hair, brand new clothes that should have been worn by a younger woman. No eyeglasses. And see if you can get a mental picture of her.
What do you mean, no glasses? You don't know if she wore glasses. Just because she was rubbing her nose?
She has those marks. I saw
So
them.
what? What do you think that means?
Well, listen, I saw him too, and he is right. I was the closest one to her. She had those deep things. What do you call them?
What point are you making here?
She had those marks.
She had dyed hair and marks on her nose. I'm asking you, what does it mean?
Could those marks be made by anything other than eyeglasses?
No, they couldn't.
Listen, what are you saying here? I didn't see any marks.
I did. Strange, but I didn't think about it before.
Well, what about the lawyer? Why didn't he say anything?
There are 12 people in here concentrating on this case. 11 of us didn't think of it either.
Okay, Clarence Darrow. Then what about the district attorney? Do you think he'd try to pull a trick like that, have her testify without her glasses?
Did you ever see a woman who had to wear her glasses and didn't want to because she thinks they spoil her looks?
My wife, listen, I'm telling you, as soon as we walk out of the house...
Maybe the district attorney didn't know either.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say.
Okay, she had marks on her nose. I'm giving you this from glasses, right? She never wore them out of the house, so people would think she was gorgeous. But when she saw this kid kill his father, she was in the house, alone. That's all.
Do you wear your eyeglasses when you go to bed?
No, I don't. No one wears eyeglasses to bed.
It's logical to say that she wasn't wearing them while she was in bed, tossing and turning, trying to fall asleep.
How do you know?
I don't know, I'm guessing. I'm also guessing that she probably didn't put on her glasses when she turned and looked casually out of the window. And she herself said that the murder took place just as she looked out and the lights went off a split second later. She couldn't have had time to put her glasses on then.
Wait a
and here's
second.
another guess. Maybe she honestly thought she saw the boy kill his father. I say that she saw only a blur.
How do you know what she saw? How does he know all these things? You don't know what kind of glasses she wore. Maybe she was farsighted. What do you know about it?
I only know that the woman's eyesight is in question now.
She had to identify a person 60 feet away in the dark without glasses.
You can't send someone off to die in the electric chair on evidence like that.
Don't give me that.
Don't you think that the woman might have made a mistake?
No.
It's not possible.
No, it's not possible.
Is it possible?
Yes, I say not guilty.
Do you still think he's guilty?
Yes, I think he's guilty, but I could care less. You smart bastards, do whatever you want to do.
How do you vote?
Not guilty. Do whatever you want.
You're the worst. You got... I think he's guilty.
Does anyone else think he's guilty?
No, I'm convinced.
What's the matter with you?
I now have a reasonable doubt.
It's 11 to 1.
Well, what about all the other evidence? What about all that stuff? The knife, the whole business.
You said that we could throw out all the other evidence.
You're alone.
I don't care whether I'm alone or not. It's my right.
It's your right.
Well, what do you want? I say he's guilty.
We want your arguments.
I gave you my arguments.
We're not convinced. We want to hear them again. We have as much time as it takes.
Everything. Every single thing that came out in that courtroom, when I mean everything, says he's guilty. You think I'm an idiot or something? You lousy bunch of bleeding hearts. You're not going to intimidate me. I'm entitled to my opinion. I can sit in this goddamn room for a year. Somebody say something. Why don't you take that stuff about the old man who lived there and heard everything, or take the knife? What, just because he found another one like it? The old man saw him right there on the stairs. What's the difference how many seconds it took? What's that difference? Every single thing. The knife falling through a hole in his pocket. You can't prove that he didn't get to the door. Sure, you can hobble around the room all you want, but you can't prove it. I'm telling you, everything that went on in here has been twisted and turned. That business with the glasses, how do you know she didn't have them on? The woman testified in court. Well, what do you want? That's it. That's the whole case. The whole thing about hearing the boy yell, the phrase was, "I'm gonna kill you." That's what he said to his own father. I don't care what kind of man that was. It was his father. That goddamn rotten kid. I know him, what they like, what they do to you, how they kill you every day. My God, don't you see? How come I'm the only one? Jeez, I can feel.
that knife going in.
It's not your boy. He's somebody else.
Let him live.
All right. Not guilty.
We have a verdict.
This concludes our presentation of 12 Angry Men by Reginald Rose. The cast in alphabetical order was Dan Castellaneta as juror number 5, Jeffrey Donovan as juror number 8, Hector Elizondo as juror number 10, Robert Foxworth as juror number 3, James Gleason as juror number 2, Kevin Kilner as juror number 6, Richard Kind as juror number 7, Alan Mandell as juror number 9, Rob Nagle as juror number 12, Armin Shimerman as juror number 4, Joe Spano as juror number 11, and Steve Vinovich as the foreman. Directed by John de Lancie. Recording engineer, sound designer, and editor Mark Holden for VoiceBox Studios. Stage manager and live sound effects Amy Bristol. Associate producers Brendan Fox and Susan Robb Simonson. Executive producer Susan Albert Lowenberg.